Yeah. Okay, we are live streaming in 3, 2, 1, action.
Good evening. Welcome to the Hendrick Hudson School Board of Education 2024 Candidates Forum. My name is Janine Eichenholz, and I am a co-chair of the HenHud PTA Advocacy Committee, a standing committee of the 4 PTA units of the Hendrick Hudson School District. I'm joined here tonight by my fellow advocacy co-chairs, Chrissy Archaki, representing our special education PTA, Lisa Anderson, representing the high school PTSA, and Janelle Monet, representing our elementary school PTA. I represent the Blue Mountain Middle School PTA. Our PTAs are independent, non-political organizations, and no PTA unit endorses any individual candidate for this or any elected office. It is our pleasure to be hosting tonight's event once more. This year, we have 5 candidates running for 2 open trustee positions on our Board of Education. Each trustee position is for a 3-year term. The school board election will take place on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. Voting will be held in person at the Frank G. Lindsay School behind the Hendrick Hudson High School at 57 Trolley Road in Montrose. Voting hours are from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. If you are registered to vote in a general election and have voted in the last 4 years, you are registered and able to vote in this school district election. If you wish to register only for the school district election, you may do so in person at the school district administration building up to 5 days prior to the election. Absentee ballots may be requested ahead of time. You may apply in person at the school district administration building for an absentee ballot. If you want the absentee ballot mailed to you, you must apply by Tuesday, May 14th. If you want to pick up an absentee ballot in person, you can apply and do so up until May 20th. All absentee ballots must be returned to the district clerk in original form with an original signature no later than 5:00 p.m. on Tuesday, May 21st, Election Day. More information on absentee ballots is available on the district website at henhudschools.org. Tonight's Candidates Forum is being moderated by Elizabeth Marafiotti and Zaire Lusende, both scholar athlete juniors at Hendrick Hudson High School. Elizabeth is on the volleyball team, including the state championship team from 2 years ago, and next year will be a captain of the team. She participates in the Spanish Honor Society, National Honor Society, Sailors Program, and Sailors Supporting Sailors, as well as other clubs and activities at school. She is a dancer since she was 3 and competed for a number of years. She lifeguards year-round, including at a local summer camp. Zaire is a member of the Spanish National Honor Society, the Speech and Debate Team, Seed Club, Sailors Supporting Sailors, Music Culture Club, and plays varsity tennis. And you'll see, he's still in his gear because he came straight here from a tennis match that he won. So good luck today. Both of our moderators are members of our Peer Leadership Program, which is a wonderful program at our high school. Our use of students as moderators was approved by our superintendent and the high school principal, and these students were recommended to us by the advisor for the Peer Leadership Program. We are excited to be promoting both pillars 1 and 2 of our district strategic plan, student engagement and real world experience, by inviting our students to participate in this incredibly important event. And we are proud of each of them and their accomplishments thus far in their HenHud careers. We thank them very much for giving up their time to be with us tonight, especially as they're a little brain fried after their AP Psych exam today. The Advocacy Committee received 155 questions, 50% more than last year, from 34 individuals. Every single question was carefully read, reviewed, and sorted by the HenHud PTA Advocacy Committee. A representative set of questions was compiled to encompass as wide an array of topics as possible during tonight's program, keeping in mind that we do want to finish by 9 p.m. In determining which questions would make the final cut, we did our best to identify those questions that would elicit the most meaningful responses and provide the best information possible so that our community members can decide which candidates will receive their votes. Some questions were combined and some were revised for clarity and to ensure fairness to all of our candidates. We did our best to retain the original intention behind each question. If your question did not make the final list and you would like to address it to any of the candidates, you may do so using the contact information that each has provided. That information is available here tonight. There are, right on Greg's table over here, there is one list there and there are 2 by the door. We invite you to take a picture of that before you leave, if you'd like to have that handy. It's available here. Also will be shared via email from the PTA Advocacy Committee and on our Facebook page. If you prefer to receive their contact information by email, you can request it by emailing us at pta pta.advocacy@henhudschools.org. This year, the PTA Advocacy Committee will not be submitting additional questions to the candidates for answering after the forum. It will be up to each of you, if you want further information or clarification on a matter, to contact the individual candidate. As a reminder, no questions will be permitted from the floor tonight. Our forum tonight will follow the guidelines as established by the League of Women Voters. Our moderators will go over these guidelines in just a moment. I will serve as timekeeper, displaying a countdown clock on an iPad so that it is visible to both the candidates and the moderators. I will hold up a really cute little 30-second alarm clock sign when they have 30 seconds left, and a nice big stop sign so they know when their time is up. We would like to thank each of our candidates for making yourselves available tonight for this forum, and we would like to thank everyone who submitted questions to us, and thank you everyone who is here in our full house, and also watching and listening online. Don't forget to get out and vote. I will now turn it over to our moderators.
Good evening and welcome to the Hendrick Hudson School Board Candidate Forum. This forum will be recorded in its entirety and will be available for viewing on the district's YouTube channel, with a link posted on the district website. Other than the official district recording, personal recording of this event is prohibited. No candidate or any other individual will be allowed to use or edit immediate photos of this forum for this campaigning purposes. However, the link to the recording in its entirety can be shared. Before we begin, we'd like to remind you to please mute your phones.
The forum ground rules being used tonight were created by the League of Women Voters and have been presented to all candidates, as well as the moderators, by the HUD PTA Advocacy Committee. Each candidate had the opportunity to review the rules prior to this evening's event. Earlier this evening, in the presence of the candidates, the moderators drew the candidates' names randomly to determine the order of speaking. The reverse order will be used for closing statements. The order of answering questions will be rotated with each new question. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 1.5 minutes for a closing statement. All candidates will be asked the same question and each will be given 1.5 minutes to respond.
If needed, the candidates may request to hear the question again. If a candidate requests a clarification on the question, the monitors will defer to the advocacy committee, which created the list of questions. A candidate will be allowed to finish a sentence when starting, but the monitor will enforce strict time limits. If a candidate does not use all the time allotted for the response, the unused time will not be applied to any other purpose or question. A visual timer will be employed by the timekeeper so that the monitors and candidates can see the time remaining. The timekeeper will hold up a red card when the time has expired. As a reminder, audience questions were collected in advance and will not be taken during the forum. Candidates will not interrupt one another or the moderator during the forum. The moderator has the authority to pause the proceeding to enforce the ground rules and format.
Candidates were not provided with any of the questions in advance, except for time limits. The only restriction on candidate statements and question answers is respect and civility. There are 5 candidates running for 2 seats on the school board. In the order of their opening comments, the candidates are Lauren Stanko, Chris Janik, Corey Bowden, Debbie Rivera, Joseph Mintos. We will now begin with opening statements. As a reminder, each candidate will have 2 minutes for their opening statement.
My name is Lauren Stanko. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, the community for coming out to be here tonight, and the Hendrick Hudson Free Public Library for hosting this forum. To tell you a little bit about me, I am a mom of 4 children, Cameron, Riley, Zoe, and Trent. In September, I will have children in 9th, 6th, 3rd grade, and kindergarten. My husband Randy and I moved here 14 years ago to raise our family. I grew up locally and went through the Hendrick-Hudson School District. I returned to this community so my children could enjoy a similar enriching experience. I'm the owner of an event planning company called LCR Events. As a business owner, I understand the importance of collaboration and working with people, effective leadership, and decision-making, especially in high-stress situations. I've decided to run for the Hendrick-Hudson School District's Board of Education as a way to give back to the community that gave so much to me and my family throughout the years. I am committed to promoting excellence across our entire district. I've volunteered in many roles for Hendrick-Hudson over the past 10 years while my children have been students here. I've been a class mom every year since 2005. I've been on the 5th grade committee twice and have planned 2 graduation parties for the 5th grade class. And I ran and planned Hen Hub Live along with the committee for 3 years before COVID. Being on the school board would be the ultimate way to give back to a district that means so much to me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Jacknick. I'm a Hen Hub parent and an active member of our community as a member of the PTA, SEPTA, and the PTA Mental Health Advocacy Committee. I have undergraduate degrees in English and Spanish from the University of Maryland, as well as 2 masters and a doctorate in education from Teachers College, Columbia University. I've been a professor of academic literacy and linguistics at the City University of New York for 15 years. I served 6 years on the highest decision-making body at my campus, one of those as parliamentarian. That is to say, I know how bylaws work. I know how meetings should work. I'm a former ESL teacher, and I've also served on the executive board of the New York State Teachers of English to Speakers of Other Languages. A combination of factors prompted me to run for the board this year. After securing a special education plan for one of my children this spring, I was struck by how difficult the process was, and I wondered how parents with fewer resources would even begin. It made me realize that while I advocate for higher education as part of my profession, there is a need right here at home that I can help with. This is beyond just what my children need, and more about how I can use my experience in governance and expertise in teaching and learning to improve my community for all students by promoting best practices in our schools. The Hendrick-Hudson School District was a big reason why my husband and I chose to make this community our home all those years ago before our children were born. I've been an active member of our community through volunteerism within the various schools my children attend and with other nonprofit organizations. I am a strong believer in service, and joining the school board is one way that I can continue to contribute to my community. I want to thank the PTA Advocacy Committee for organizing this forum, our excellent moderators, Lizzie and Zaire, all of those who submitted questions, and the Hen Hud Free Library, my home away from home, for hosting us. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Corey Boudin, the candidate with all the orange lawn signs. Thanks again to the PTA Advocacy Committee and all those who submitted questions and our student moderators. Choosing to live in this community was a strategic choice for us. It began even before we had kids. We were looking to raise our future family in a community steeped in history, close to nature, and along the Hudson River. That is, if we could afford it. Most importantly, it needed to have a strong school district with a proven track record. Lastly, it needed to be within commuting distance of Manhattan, where I've been a career content producer for leading brands. Throughout my career, I've mastered the art of bringing together diverse stakeholders to collaborate on challenging projects. Along the way, I've been recognized for my problem-solving skills, united disjointed teams towards achieving common goals, always on time and on budget. To no surprise, we chose this community and have been raising our family here ever since. As my kids began attending BB Elementary, I contributed first as a class parent, then a PTA member, until now where I'm on the executive board. I'm an executive board member on the Blue Mountain Middle School PTA. Because I've always been more comfortable leading teams from behind the scenes, running for the board was not a decision I took lightly. I agreed to do so after so many fellow parents expressed frustration about not being heard and asked me to represent them. It's precisely because I care so much that I agreed to step up and run for this election today. And here's what I can promise you. Amidst all the challenges and contentious talk, I will listen to all points of view and work diligently to unite us towards one common goal, providing the best education and the best value for our entire community. By being accessible, open-minded, I'm confident that I can earn your trust, making a positive difference by working together. Thank you.
My name is Denise Rivera. First, I would like to thank everyone who made this forum possible, the audience and those watching the live stream. I also want to give a special thank you to the community for the outpouring of support and engagement I have received during this campaign, and my husband for always supporting all of my choices. A little bit about me. We purchased our home in town 4 years ago, and I'm a lifelong resident of Westchester, raised and educated in Sleepy Hollow Public Schools. I am Hispanic and speak fluent Spanish. When I first learned about the PTA advocacy committees, I attended the first meeting, and Lisa Anderson looked at me and said, "Would you like to spearhead the PTA Mental Health Advocacy Committee?" And without hesitating, I agreed. It was an honor and an opportunity for me to give back to the district. While serving as the chair of the Mental Health Committee, I learned that the academy program at the high school was in danger of being ended. My son, as well as many other kids, benefited greatly from this program. The thought that it would end due to a budget issue bothered me. That brought running for the board into focus for me. In my professional life, I managed the IT operations of 2 area hospitals to include audits, reviewing policies and procedures, vendor management, and managing multi-million-dollar budgets. I realized that I could bring the aforementioned abilities as well as my ability to build consensus, which is critical in ensuring seamless operations among multiple departments. The past few years have been stressful for everyone, with our kids taking an outside share of that stress. Never could we have imagined at time when kids learned via a screen or couldn't have play dates. In addition, we have seen the district roiled by disagreement over which is the best way forward for our schools. If I'm fortunate enough to be elected to the board, I strongly believe that I will be able to help tackle these issues as well as the pervasive bullying, social emotional issues, lack of resources, and most importantly, the feeling of lack of accountability from the district are additional factors that drove me to seek a seat on the board.
Hi, my name is Joseph Mintz, and I'd like to thank the PTA for putting this all together, the mediators, Elizabeth and Zaire, and of course, the rest of the candidates. I'm sure each and every one of us would be an exceptional candidate on the board. We all want what's best for the students and for the parents. My background is I was born and raised in New York City, went to public school all my life. I came from a very diverse background in New York City, and I still have a diverse household as well. Moved here 4 years ago, and I have a daughter entering kindergarten this fall. When we first moved here, we started coming here to New York Public Library and became integrated into the community and really fell in love with the community. También yo quiero hablar con los padres que no hablan inglés. Yo sé que hay otros aquí que se pueden hablar español también. Yo sé que es muy importante que todos los padres y todos los estudiantes tienen un voz con el school board, y yo quiero escuchar que ustedes necesiten decir, conjuntos podemos ir para adelante. And hopefully you guys don't correct my Spanish too much. It's been a little while since I've really been speaking in Spanish all the time, but of course I want to make sure that you all know that I would be here working for each and every one of you.
At this time, Zaire and I will ask a series of questions as compiled by the PTA Advocacy Committee. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. The first question will begin with Chris. Chris, please explain your vision for our district and if it differs from currently stated district and Board of Education goals. Please explain.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question one more time? I just want to pick up a couple of points.
Yes. Please explain your vision for our district and if it differs from currently stated districts and Board of Education goals. Please explain.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I think that there are a lot of things going on with our district right now, and that really the biggest one that we're all aware of is the budget. And so I would say that my vision for the district is a little bit different than the current vision that's been listed out by our current Board of Education. So one of the priorities in terms of the budget is that we are looking for efficiencies in secondary education. and that there are no cuts at the elementary level. Equity is important at every level. So this means we have to focus on elementary school and secondary school. We can't sacrifice one for the other. I think that there's also been a real lack of listening to our teachers, which is really an issue for me as a New York State United Teachers member, also as our teachers union is. The teachers are there, they're in the classrooms, they see what's happening. We really need to listen to our stakeholders and see, what is it that most of the community wants to do and not just maybe what individuals on the board want to do. And really lastly, to say that I think it's really important that we have a bunch of retirements coming up in big leadership positions. So this year, finance chair is retiring. We have the head of pupil personnel, curriculum, athletics. The board will make those hiring decisions. And so you want to make sure you are electing someone who is going to make decisions that will get us through not just this year, but beyond.
Hello.
I think it's a great question because that's what you're looking to us to bring to the board is a vision. It seems that we've gotten a little bit off course with the last few years of kind of going back and forth with different elementary structures. And I do feel that my vision for the district is one in which there is a clearer and more honest line of communication between the district, the teachers, the community, that there's more transparency. It seems like it's a little bit confusing what's going into the budget and what the reasons are that we are moving structures again. It seems that there are a lot of good reasons for both sides of the issue, but that we're not speaking about them openly and honestly in a climate where we're losing money from the closure of Indian Point. So it does feel like that's a little bit going on the wrong course. And mostly I envision more trust and respect being brought back to our community. We've experienced a breakdown in the last couple of years, and I'd like for us to focus more on being honest and minimizing confrontations and prioritizing listening to the teachers and doing what's best for our students.
Who asked the question you're making?
Please explain your vision for our district and if it differs from the currently stated district and Board of Education goals. Please explain how.
I'd say besides the struggles of budgeting, finance, division is not different than what it currently is. I think that the board needs to explore deficiencies that are currently in the budget. I think reviewing budget line by line and looking at where it can be reduced, where we can reduce non-academic expenses, and transparency with the community, having parents more engaged, and finding ways to reach out to the Hispanic community so they can also be more engaged and not feel left out.
What's most important by far is just improvements all around. It's no secret that our school district is ranked lower than the neighboring districts, and we should be improving at every level, both academically, artistically, culturally, sports as well. So I would not be cutting any budget items anywhere. There'd be no cuts to arts, there'd be no cuts to sports, there'd be no cuts to any academics. I wish the proposition for the 30 million infrastructure improvement would be doubled, honestly. Like, we should be going bigger and stronger on making our schools better, making this the best school district, not just around, but in Westchester and in the state. That's what we deserve. That's what the students deserve. That's what's going to make this a wonderful place to live for us, for our kids, for their kids. That's what's going to make it more desirable. So that's what's really important is complete improvement on all levels.
Yeah.
Really go back to.
It's a good game. Uh-huh.
Okay, so what I would like to focus on and my vision for the future would be the academics for the kids. I know budget is important, but I really feel we need to focus on what's best for our kids and getting their test scores up and getting our kids to grade level. There's many kids in the district in many grades who aren't testing at their grade level. A lot of kids in certain grades in elementary are having trouble reading, math. I know that need for AIS is up. So we need to find out why so many kids are struggling. If it's from COVID, is it from, changing buildings? Is it just anything else that's going on? But I think that is the most important, getting the kids to grade level and seeing what they need. I think also another thing that is a big problem in our district is that we just need to heal. It's very divided, and it's been that way basically since COVID. And since, the changing of the elementary schools, and it seems we just can't get past that. So I think that is a major focus, and definitely the academics. I mean, whatever we can do to get there, I think would be great.
Corey, what do you feel are the primary concerns facing Corey?
Yes.
What do what do you feel are the primary concerns facing the Hendrick Hudson School District?
That's an excellent question. I did a lot of studying for this, more than I've done since probably high school. And it's been great because I've learned a lot about our needs. And my biggest thing, and because I come from a world where I'm a producer and in the world of advertising and TV commercials, and it's all about communication. So I do feel like the lack of clear and honest communication is probably the top issue that we're facing, because it trickles down into everything: budget, scholastics, curriculum. So from my perspective, we need to improve the transparency in our communication. We need to improve the digital way we are communicating. There are a lot of things that we can do to improve that. Budget challenges, that colors everything. And due to the loss of the revenue from the closure of Indian Point, our district faces significant budget challenges, and we need to find equitable solutions to maintain the quality of our kids' education while managing a reduced funding. And then again, I said this before, the biggest thing that I think will help us, and you've all said it up here, is the loss of trust and respect. And we've experienced this in the last few years, like Lauren said. And I want to focus us on working collaboratively towards our goals as a team, and respect is a key part of this. And I'm going to stop. This way.
And can you ask the question?
No problem. What do you feel are the primary concerns facing the Hendrick Hudson School District?
One of the main concerns to me is improving how we allocate our funds. Recruitment and retention of our teachers, and maintaining stability for our elementary school is very important. I think that if those three subjects can be taken care of the right way, students will thrive, and so will our teachers.
So I'm newish to the community, and hearing all about this divisiveness and lack of communication that's been going on over the past years is always, of course, really disturbing to hear, and that's something that's concerning to me since I put my name into the mix about hearing how much basically negativity there has been around the school board and any issues that have arisen. And so, you know, that's a real concern, to make sure that it is more copacetic, working with the school board, working with the parents, working with the teachers, working with the students, making sure it's amicable for everybody, and making sure we're providing the most enriching learning environment for the students, because at the end of the day, it's all for the students. So that's obviously a large concern, is hearing about all this divisiveness from what's going on from our side. It shouldn't be spilling over to you students. It's really inspiring to see how well you guys are doing with all that you've achieved. Just up to your junior year, I'm sure you're going to do great going forward in senior year and into college. And that's where all of our students should be. They should all be this ambitious. They should all be striving for the top colleges, and we should be putting together programs that can get them forward into those top colleges with the best guidance programs that we can put forward.
Sorry, guys, it's gonna be like literally got a rod in there.
Like I said in the last question, my biggest concerns, I guess, are, you know, the kids and their, you know, the level where they're coming in, test scores. You know, I know that many kids have to rely on the tutors. I'm not saying it has anything to do with the teachers or what's happening in the classroom, you know, as what's being taught, but I just don't understand why so many kids are struggling. So I think we just really need to look at that. Definitely, like I said before, I think a big concern is how divided the community is. But I really do feel that we need to find a way to bring the community together, and also have our children find a way to, you know, leave school reading and writing at their grade level, get those test scores up, as well as possibly implementing things into the curriculum that could, you know, help kids when they get out of school with executive functioning and things like that. I do feel that some kids, well, you know, maybe don't have those skills for when they leave school that would help them, you know, such as, you know, money management or just real life living skills. So I do think that that's something that could possibly be worked on as well.
So again, to kind of echo what I said also with the last question, I think that budget is really the most important. And while I agree with my esteemed co-candidate, candidate over there, that we would love to keep everything. We would love to not cut anything and invest. I would also love to double the bond, but we also need to be aware of the fact that our community is filled with people who cannot handle tax increases that would be needed to maintain current programs, let alone to build anything onto it. Our projections show our fund balance dwindling by 2030. So we have to figure this out. How do we maintain what we have and not overtax people? It is popular to not raise taxes, but we also need to be prepared. Gradual, manageable tax increases are the way to do this, rather than some years of no increase, as we've seen with the current board, followed by big increases. To me, I think another thing really, equity again is my number one. I think it's crucial that we are ensure that there are supports in place for our multilingual learners, students with special needs, those who are falling behind in basic skills but may not have been identified as in need of special education designation, but also students who need more enrichment. There's really all across the board, do we have supports in place for what individual students need?
Students, what are your thoughts on advanced curriculum and enhanced enrichment opportunities at all levels?
Is that, repeat that again?
What are your thoughts on advanced curriculum and advanced enrichment opportunities at all levels?
I feel like that's a no-brainer. Why would we not want something like that for all levels? I think we should do everything possible to have all types of levels high and I don't want to say low, but students learn at very different levels and each individual has their own learning strategies. and we should cater to all of them.
Yeah, of course, we should have, I don't remember exactly how you phrased the question, but yes, we should have all the excellent programs that we could possibly get. And I know I said like, oh, we should keep investing in funding. That's not to say I want us to raise all the taxes on, to fund it all, we should also be applying for all the grants, all the state funds that we could possibly obtain, all the federal funding that we could possibly obtain. I wouldn't be against the idea of getting a grant writer in-house to be searching out and seeking these potential, funding sources, whether it's, building up a more, bigger endowment. I mean, thankfully, the PTA is doing a spectacular job of, fundraising and putting together, events like this. And I would certainly encourage them to keep doing such wonderful work so that we can have such, excellent, programming for the higher level and more ambitious students.
Getting them.
I definitely think we need to have advanced placement classes and, in the curriculum. I think there has to be also, courses offered for kids who are not in advanced as well. I think it also depends on the need of what, the students are, of, how many advanced classes are offered, but definitely they should never go away. They always have to exist. I think also you have to get your youngest learners up to a point where they're going to be able to get into advanced placement classes, as so many are struggling. My kids are at all different levels. So currently my son is not in honors or, but many of his friends are. So I think it depends on, the needs of the kids in the grade and what is offered. But, I don't think anything should be taken away that exists at the advanced level.
I think it's really important to acknowledge that we really lack enrichment opportunities in our district until high school. So the expansion, for example, of the after-school academies to BV with the recent move to grade banding is huge. It makes an enormous difference in the students' lives. For the middle school, I'm not there yet as a parent, but this is an area where I would want to engage with the stakeholders, with parents, staff, and students to understand their needs. I think that this question is maybe not directly, but is asking about, there are rumors swirling around about cutting AP programs. So I want to address that directly and say, as a deputy chair for my academic department, I was in charge of schedules, which required balancing enrollment declines, the curricular needs of students, and faculty members' contractual workloads. Without access to the specific data on enrollment in the district, I can't say for sure, but my experience in this situation is that there are creative solutions to this kind of problem, and I'm eager to engage with stakeholders and start figuring it out. The last couple of things I'll say about AP is that what I do think is important is what is in our course catalog is not necessarily reflective of what's being offered, and college admissions officers are looking at how many APs do you take compared to how many APs are available. So it's not a good thing for our district just to say we have 27 APs if you can only ever take 20 of them.
Thanks. So this is a topic that's really important to me. I took AP classes when I was in high school, and, I don't remember everything about high school, but I remember really feeling super challenged by AP. And since my kids started in elementary, I have always sought out enrichment opportunities for them, like with their individual teachers, not necessarily programs. I will second what Chris said about After School Academy, which is something my son got to partake in after the schools merged. And it's fantastic. And I think it's a great program since it's already in place and it's working well, it's something we can expand on. The middle school and the high school have sort of been like the forgotten children in this scenario, because we've been focusing a lot on the little kids, which is fine, but I feel like it's time to shift our focus. At Blue Mountain, there are my daughter's in 7th grade, and 6th grade, they're all kind of getting their footing. 7th grade, we see there's an honors math program, and there's now, I just heard about an advanced studio art program, which sounds awesome, and you get high school credit. But there are some fantastic opportunities in the high school that we absolutely need to keep, work hard to keep, but we also need to evaluate which ones maybe aren't working and figure out creative solutions on how to keep them.
Joseph, how do you plan to balance community input with educational expertise in deciding curriculum and policy matters, especially on controversial topics?
Listening, you gotta listen to everybody, you gotta listen to the faculty, you gotta listen to the parents, you have to listen to the students. And you have to have an open mind to all, what they want to tell you and what they bring to the table and their reasons why, and you have to have, data to back up your, decision making. You have to work collaboratively with the rest of the school board. It's important to not make rash, emotional decisions when things get, when it gets paid, when everybody gets into an excited state. Because of course, this is personal to everybody. These are our kids, these are our schools, this is our district, these are our lives, and we all want what's best, and we all think we know what's best. And it's important to, really pay attention to everybody and know what they're saying and take it into account and make sure that they feel heard. Con todos los padres, yo sé que ya he hablado en español una vez y yo quiero decir otra vez que es importante que todos estamos en la misma página y queremos mejorar nuestras escuelas para nuestros estudiantes.
Can you just repeat the question? I think I had it.
How do you plan to balance community input with educational expertise in deciding curriculum and policy matters, especially on controversial topics?
Okay, so I know as part of the strategic plan, there's a curriculum committee, and that's created of parents, teachers, and administrators who work on the curriculum together. So that is a way that there is community input, on what is going on being taught in school with academics. So basically, that's my answer. I think if there's, basically if there's a controversial issue, that we have to just see what the need for the curriculum is. And if, we have to see what kind of, what is being offered and what is the controversial issue at need. So if it's something that would, benefit the students, or, if it's something that they're being talked about taking away, we just have to see what the need is, among the students in the schools.
I think in addition to, what Lauren just said, particularly about the curriculum, committee, that we can also look to other districts to see what they're doing with similar topics. But really, I think that we desperately need a comprehensive communication plan for the district that allows us to really systematically get feedback from stakeholders. So that's including our teachers, including staff, including parents, including students also, I think is very important. In terms of how do we actually do that, just a couple of ideas that I wanted to share is that it's extremely hard to attend district events with small children. And so a very simple idea would be to provide some kind of babysitting. So for example, when the board had the meeting sometime, I think it was in November last year, to say, here's the different plans and come and look at them, we'll tell you about them, give us your feedback. I went with a friend of mine. Luckily, my husband was home with our children. She had to bring her kids, and it's extremely hard to listen to someone explain this restructuring plan to you. Think about what your response will be while a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old are hanging off of you. And then the last thing I'll say is also, as a professor in my undergraduate and graduate classes, I offer office hours that are just regular. So as a board member, I would want to do the same. I'm there every week these hours, come talk to me, tell me what's going on. And if it doesn't work for you, as I always say to my students, send me an email and we'll find a time that does.
Thanks. So I think the biggest part of this is making it more of a conversation rather than just a checklist that satisfies certain aspects of it. I've noticed that the way the current board members interact, sometimes that discourages engagement from other people. So I would try to encourage participation and actively engage with parents and stakeholders, listening to all of the diverse opinions with an open mind. I might not always agree, we may not always agree, but listening starts to build consensus. And I want to bring people together to work as a team like I do at work. And, you know, in the past month, since I decided to run for this position, I've been meeting so many new people and hearing amazing stories. And it's really rewarding to get out there and put the face to the name that you've only like met on a Zoom call or Google Meet in our case, or, you know, in email. I've seen names and I'm like, oh, you're that person. It's great. So to hear people's stories has been so uplifting. And I think once you get on the board, people tend to sort of forget that engagement, and it would really help with the conversation, the tough conversation. So when the issues get tough, which they will, and we have tough issues coming up, that we would have a consensus.
How do you plan to balance community input with educational expertise in deciding curriculum and policy matters, especially on controversial topics?
So in regards to academics, I believe that we need much more community engagement, and we need our teachers to weigh in a lot of what the board does. We need to hear from them. They are the ones that are with the students day to day, and they know the students better than anyone else. In regards to controversial topics, I would say that what benefits one student doesn't benefit another. Everyone is not the same. So listening to the parents is also very important and needs to be taken into consideration. Having them engaged more with the teacher, with administration, with the board is so important in order for students to thrive.
That's what we're here.
One, how important do you think school ratings are, and how much weight should be given to them? What factors should be used in assessing student success as well as our district's performance? And just for all the candidates, make sure you have the mic close to your mouth so we can hear you on live stream.
Well, I think district ratings are important for, you know, people out in the community or people interested in moving to the community to learn about. If they see a district is ranked low, they may not want to move here. And that's just their opinion based on the scores, and they don't know anything about the district. So, you know, being from here, I know it's a great district. I know we offer a lot. We have great students, we have great community, great parents, sports are great. You know, everything is good, but then you look at the rankings and people may disagree. So, I'm sorry, can you say the second part of the question again?
What factors should be used in assessing student success as well as our district's performance?
Well, I know we use all these tests all the time. I ready the state test, and then, you know, kids come in below level and then we're told, don't worry about it, it doesn't count, things like that. So I have to wonder if there's a better way to estimate how the kids are doing. You know, I see some students are really struggling, but then they're coming in, you know, kind of at their grade level, but they're not getting extra help. So they may just be making where they need to be, but then they still need the extra help. So they're actually falling behind, even though they're kind of like, oh, they're in second grade, they're kind of at a second grade level, but maybe they're not quite there and they are kind of falling behind. So maybe those scores need to be reevaluated.
So as someone who is in higher education, as my job, I can tell you that a lot of the rankings just need to be taken with a grain of salt. So, you know, my alma mater, Teachers College, Columbia University is all forever fighting with Harvard and Penn to be like, we're the best college of education. And really, they're all excellent. So absolutely, we want to pay attention to the rankings because we don't want people to not come to our district. But I think that there are a lot of things that those kind of rankings don't necessarily measure. So the factors that I think should be used, so in terms of student achievement, we also want to look at student growth, not just who is at this level, who is at that level, what movement is happening across the grades. In terms of kind of ranking the district, there are so many factors. So just to name a few, I think the financial management of the district, staff and teacher retention, community engagement, operational efficiency, innovation and improvement initiatives, equity and inclusion metrics, compliance and legal standards, strategic planning and goal achievement, and stakeholder satisfaction. We have measures for some of these, but for others we don't. So we don't actually have a good sense of how well our district is doing in these areas.
It's hard to follow that list because it's very thorough and I don't have a list like that, but I can say that I actually was having a conversation with one of the board members about the rankings on the soccer field a few weeks ago. And I said, well, what are they based on? And he said, I don't know, but we didn't do well. And, you know, that's what everybody's saying is that our rankings are down, our rankings are down. But nobody knows what the actual, what goes into the rankings. So maybe we should find out what goes into the rankings and then figure out the root cause of why we're not doing as well in those rankings. It seems like, you know, a one-to-one comparison in my mind. So I will get back to you as I dig into what goes into the rankings.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. So in regards to the rankings, I actually went, can you hear me? No. Okay. I went to last night's board meeting and it was very informative and it actually, I want to tell everybody that if you don't know something, watch the board meetings online, attend them. They are so informative. Mr. Trombley explained how the ranking works. It's like Chris said, take it with a grain of salt. It's, you know, everybody says all up in arms, like, hey, you know, our rankings are 212, and, you know, but it's not as bad as you think. There's so much more to take into account than just a number. And in regards to how we should look at the growth of our children, I have written down here also, look at the year-to-year growth of our children as an individual. I think that gives us so much more detail about how we are growing as a school district than a number.
The rankings system is based on an algorithm, really, and it's focused on metrics and state testing, and it's all important. Of course, we should be excelling in all the testings that we can, but that's not really a holistic approach to an educational system. Is just doing testing and just these metrics to kind of game the system to increase your ranking score. I mean, of course, the ranking is also important because that's going to make it a more desirable district for people to move in. It's going to look better from the outside, but really we need to make sure our schools are better on the inside. And that isn't just based on the metrics that this ranking system takes into account. So in order to show growth for the students, it is year over year, of course. And for some students, it's going to, who can excel on tests, it's going to show how great they are on tests. For others, it's going to show how wonderful they're excelling in the arts. If for others, it's going to show how wonderful they're excelling in sports, or showing how wonderful they're excelling in other non-traditional academic forms. And that's what we should have in our schools, a full holistic approach to educational system.
Back down the line.
It's I'm gonna start learning it, so now, crazy. So it skips one, because that's, you finish the.
I was going to say.
Good for you.
Do you have any familiarity or knowledge with special education? If so, as a trustee, how would you apply that knowledge? If not, how do you intend to learn more about this facet of education?
This is such an important question. I do have personal experience with special education. So this year I was able to secure what's known as a 504 plan. So this is part of a law that was passed that's making sure that individuals with certain diagnoses can receive accommodations. And then there's also an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, which is part of it's a different part of I think it's Americans with Disabilities Act, and the other one is IDEA. But so there are different levels for what different kids need. I think that it was incredibly difficult. I hope I have come across this evening as like a scholar. I want you to know, I researched things. This was the most stressful thing I've ever done. I defended my dissertation. I wrote a book. I'm running for school board. Getting that 504 was too hard. It was too hard. If you have ever been to a SEPTA meeting, you will see a bunch of people who are exhausted from fighting with the district. That is not what this should be. We are currently getting a lot of money from bringing special education students from out of district into our district. And that is the thing that is brought up all the time. Like, oh, this is great. Look at this money that's coming in, but it's coming in because we have to provide services, and we need to provide services for our students. Just in my last 10 seconds, I want to say the restructuring that's happening next year is going to cause changes to the IEPs of students who are going to be in Furnace Woods because there won't be enough students for a full ICT classroom. And that's an issue.
I don't know nearly as much about special education as probably a lot of people, but when I went out to the community and have been meeting people, the number one thing that people have wanted to talk to me about is their child and their experience with special education. And I've heard some pretty awful stories. So it makes me feel it in here, and it certainly has inspired me to research it more. I started talking to some people that I know that are deeply, invested in that. So as a board member, while I don't necessarily know a lot about every topic, we would approach things as a board, and certain people would know more things about some things. And I'm more than happy to spend time, learning and studying and making sure that kids on both sides of the bell curve are equally cared for in our district.
So in regards to disabilities, I have a 23-year-old son who, starting third grade, had a 504 plan and an IEP. So that's 10 years of fighting for a lot of struggles. It's not an easy road, but having 10 years of experience in it, I can assist in advocating for children that need 504 plans and IEPs, and more so lend a hand to the parent because they struggle a lot during that process. And no student is the same. So each student needs a tailored individual plan when it comes to 504 and IEP. And it's so important to advocate for your child and to have someone to lean on to help you advocate.
Can you repeat the question?
Do you have any familiarity or knowledge with special education? If so, as a trustee, how would you apply that knowledge? If not, how do you intend to learn more about this facet of education?
Yes, I do not have really any experience at all with special education or a background or knowledge of special education. It's all about listening to people who do have that experience and, making sure that those students get the education that they need, that they're, provided for. And I mean, just from sitting right here and hearing how difficult it is to access these, the money and the programs that are needed for special needs students, it's horrendous. And we should make it as, simple and easy as process as we can for the parents, because it's hard being a parent, and it's hard, to have to navigate these, bureaucratic systems.
Gotcha.
So my experience, was that this past fall, I, had my daughter evaluated and pushed to see if she needed services. I felt she was very behind for her grade. Turned out she did not get a 504 IEP, but they did decide to keep her in AIS. But even that, process was very difficult. Like Chris said, I felt super frustrated. I didn't know who to talk to. I was like passed around to many different people. I just felt, even after my final meeting, like I didn't really understand what just happened and felt really frustrated. I feel all students deserve a quality education, and parents and teachers should not feel they are asking anything unusual to bring attention to a child in need. I feel information should be readily available to parents to understand this process. And especially when we have to approach the administrators in the school, we shouldn't feel like we're doing something wrong and trying to advocate for our child. You know, if I was on the board, I would try to see how this process could be cleared up and made a little bit easier for parents. I do feel kids are being overlooked because even, you know, they're testing out of AIS, like I said before, but they still need help and they're not at grade level. So, you know, that goes for all kids with special need. All kids are legally entitled to leave school, reading and writing at grade level. So I think that needs to be addressed.
Oh, Corey, I'm sorry. Yeah, I probably go two firsts. I get lots of firsts. Lots of firsts, more than two. Sorry, go for it.
Corey, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as social and emotional learning are priorities for both New York State and our district as part of our strategic plan. How do you propose we bring these efforts into our schools, and how can the board support them?
Yeah, that's a really important question. Well, so, sorry. Thank you. So I know that the DEIB initiatives, are sort of new. A lot of people don't probably even know what those mean. We have, you know, in my work life, I've gone through training, and a lot of the big companies have whole departments that are dedicated to diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging initiatives, which is what that stands for. And I do believe that the board passed an initiative. I don't know the exact words around it, but nothing has been implemented from it. So it's out there. And I think that what I'm hearing is the best way to handle it is to hire somebody that's dedicated to that role. So they're in charge of setting up the programs and enforcing that it be followed in different ways. And there's so much research. There are so many ways that we can start implementing this into our school district. And was there another part of the question other than yes?
Oh, yeah. How do you propose we bring these efforts into our schools, and how can the board support them?
Right. I kind of think I answered that, but I had more time, so I was, you know, just, but that's all.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as social and emotional learning, are priorities for both New York State and our district as part of the strategic plan. How do you propose we bring these efforts into our schools, and how can the board support them?
So engaging parents, teachers, administrations, unions, and business stakeholders, and hearing from everybody would be the best way to support them, because we need to hear from everybody all around. parents need to be more involved. We need to hear from them. And I don't know. I think it's something I also need to look more into myself, but I think that, it's something that is new to the district as well, and as Corey said, it hasn't really been implemented. But it's something I need to do my homework on. So I'm gonna, yeah.
Yeah, there's a question here.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, as well as social and emotional learning are priorities for both New York State and our district as part of our strategic plan. How do you propose we bring these efforts into our schools, and how can the board support them?
DEI initiatives and, social and, sorry, what's the last part?
Emotional.
Social and emotional. DEI initiatives and social and emotional, programs and are a wonderful thing for students to learn, to become fully functioning, healthy adults. And it's fantastic that we have them already on a state level and that we're initiating them in school. Some potential ideas that have come in is just more cultural excursions. I mean, we live so close to New York City, there's no reason why that the student body can't go on more field trips down to the city for cultural experiences and for more DEI experiences in the city as well. And to bring in more speakers and more outside authors, writers, filmmakers, and people with experience in the real world to show how these types of initiatives can really help people as adults, how they can help these students become healthy, fully functioning adults. And that's what we want our students to become.
So I think the district has been addressing this issue recently. It's come up, programs have been changed to create a feeling of inclusion. There's been a lot of focus on the diversity of students in our district and our community through programs and celebrations lately. There's always ways to make it better and to create more ways so people feel included and nobody ever feels left out. That's a way our biases are created. People's eyes need to be open to all the different cultures and in our district. One thing I know, the middle school has a multicultural club and language club. Maybe those are things that could potentially be brought into the enrichment programs in the elementary schools too. I know that like Crow Elementary School does a multicultural night where parents and students come together and bring something to represent their culture, if it's food or an activity or a display. Maybe those are some things we could do for the whole community with all the schools. There's also ways to bring more professional development for teachers to just open people's eyes about biases, because that's how different, that's how bullying happens and, we fall into the category of, low morale.
I just want to echo Corey and say that we need a dedicated district level administrator leading the charge on diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging. This cannot be a buzzword we throw around and try to address with surface level efforts, and it can't be a volunteer committee. At my college, I have seen too many times that this becomes a form of unpaid labor for people of color, and we cannot do that. The first step for this person would be to conduct an audit of the district so that we have clear information on who is being excluded, who is being left behind. The reason this needs to be a person within the district rather than a consultant is that these efforts only succeed when there is follow through at every level, including professional development for all staff, not just teachers. The work to create a truly inclusive and safe school environment in which students and their families feel a sense of belonging will take expertise, time, effort, and meaningful input from all community stakeholders. Just the kind of side issues, one is that we need more robust translation services. Our currently enrolled students, we have 33% Hispanic students And it's difficult. I mean, this year is better than last year, but that's not saying all of that much. And the last thing I'll say is, as a parent and a lifelong educator, I can say without hesitation that students can't learn until they are emotionally available to learn. They need to be fed. They need to feel safe. They need an adult in their life who's not a parent that cares about them. They need a community network of support. This is not a problem we can tackle alone. This involves efforts like the amazing work being done by the advocacy subcommittee on school lunches, to all the way to professional development for teachers so that they're able to meet the social emotional needs of our students, particularly post-pandemic.
If elected, what are your plans for physical responsibility and fiscal responsibility and transparency? What revenue sources would you consider, and what expenses do you feel would be expendable?
So I would think we would look at every other source of funding, such as donations from major companies, grants, fundraising, and everything else. We should look at everything else, and our last resource should be raising taxes. Explore deficiencies under the current budget. I think we should review the budget line by line item. Look at where it is we can reduce, again, non-academic related expenses. With our vendors, review our contracts. Is the percentage increase over year accurate? Should we look at different vendors? And things like that are things that we should look at in regards to the budget.
I believe in full open transparency for the budget. Every parent, every taxpayer here, every citizen here should be able to see what the budget is of the public school and how it's spent, how it's used, where that money is going. Fiscal responsibility is the #1 priority of the school board, and that's not something to be taken lightly or to be joked about, and it has to be the priority. Reviewing outside vendors, fantastic idea. Figuring out other ways to lower long-term expenses. You know, for example, this library now has solar panels. You know, looking for more sustainable solutions like that for our infrastructure would be fantastic, because those are long-term solutions that are beneficial for the environment and have some cost savings as well. Looking through the budget as well for expenses that are wasteful and unnecessary, should be immediately cut. We should not be raising taxes on us, as you know, nobody wants their taxes raised, but we also need to search out funding, seek out that funding from the state, seek out the funding from the federal government, seek out grants, get an endowment, get more donors, get more corporate support. However we can, we should be getting more money into the district and not having it all on our backs.
I think for the budget, no board members individually able to manage the budget. The process of zero-based budgeting is the current approach, and each department will submit their budget request to the administration. The board has to develop budget goals with administration before decisions are made and the draft budget is developed. The purpose of the Hemhut School District is the education of the students, so that must always be the priority. So we have to figure out how to keep costs down to give the students what they need. If we need to reallocate resources, now that our demographics have changed, that could be a way to do it and not make cuts. So we have to just adjust to the changing times and make sure that everybody's needs are met. We could, propose exploring other grants, partnerships with local businesses and community organizations, and, do more fundraising. And also, I think that, all parents and educators have to understand why and how decisions are made.
I agree with Denise. I want to get in there like, Charles Grodin and Kevin Klein and Dave, and we'll just like sit down over some sandwiches and figure it out, right? I think, it's important for us to think about what the long-term consequences of our budget year to year are for our district. Every $500,000 of our budget is 1% tax levy. So everything that we are spending $500,000 on is 1% tax levy to our community. That really means something to me. My number one asset here, I really think, is my ability to deeply research issues and bring curiosity to the situation. Why are we spending money here and not here? What are the long-term consequences for budget decisions we make today? I want to just say also on the kind of idea of fiscal responsibility with the budget that, according to Don Hoffman, the CPA, who was at the December 20th meeting, he recommended that we have 10% of our annual budget in the fund balance. And we really need to be prepared for the winding down of the cessation fund. Last thing I'll mention is just an example. So, in the current budget, we have retirement packages for administrators. That does not save us money long-term. Retirement packages for teachers save us money long-term. So those are the kinds of things we need to look at and be doing in the future.
I've been managing multi-million-dollar budgets as part of my job for over 20 years. So as frightening as it sounds to have all these budgetary issues coming up, I'm actually looking forward to being able to roll my sleeves up and help out. My issue with the current school board situation with the budget is that it is almost impossible to understand the conversation unless you have an MBA, which I don't. When I've asked a simple question of a board member or the superintendent, I never get a straight answer. I'm told it's complicated. There's no line item for that. We don't know what that's going to cost yet. The line items are completely up to the discretion of the superintendent to see as he sees fit, like his own personal checkbook. And that is a quote. I just finished producing a big campaign for Con Ed, which you guys can probably see on TV. And, we had a huge budget meeting to launch the project where we went through the budget line by line by line. And when we wrapped the project, we went through the actuals line by line by line, the whole group asking questions. And we can do that here. I think that that's a great way for us to all be engaged in the budgeting as well as understanding what's being spent.
Joseph, what are your strengths and weaknesses with financial management and/or budgeting?
And/or budgeting?
Yeah, and/or budgeting.
So I've successfully started multiple businesses across multiple different countries, having to both fundraise and exit them as well. And one of the strengths I had is really just being able to work on a shoestring budget when launching a business. Starting from scratch isn't easy. This is not anywhere similar to starting from scratch. Thankfully, we don't have to start from $0. There's some money that we already have, and we have to be really careful with every dollar that we spend. And that's what I had to do while starting businesses. You have to be careful, count every single penny, count every single dollar, make sure nothing is thrown away, everything is accounted for. As for weaknesses, I get a little anal retentive about it, I guess. I get a little bit too obsessed maybe over one line item or one small issue, or one small dollar that gets spent in a way that I think is not the right way to spend dollars, but I think it's important that every dollar is properly accounted for, and that it's better to be more attentive about every single dollar than forgetful about every single dollar.
So through my work experience, I have experience working on budgets for events. I've worked for many nonprofits in the past where we worked on events and I had to, raise money and We have to keep to a budget, and I do the same for my clients now, through my own business. So I primarily work on weddings. I'm sure you all know someone who's been married or married yourself. You have to stick to a budget. They come to me with how much they want to spend overall, and then I have to help them plan everything to stay to that amount of money. I actually create the budget for them, keep the spreadsheet, keep track of everything that they've paid, deposits, balances, what comes next. And as you know, every little thing does add up, so we have to just be careful that, you know, we're not going over the amount. So I try to look at different vendors for them when I am helping them plan. Some people have a bigger budget, some items are more important to spend money on than others. So I do know many different vendors in different categories of expense. So I'm good at figuring out what will work best for their needs.
So as a researcher, I have experience building multi-year budgets for research projects. And this is work that as a community college faculty member, I had to learn to do basically on my own because there's not really a lot of support for that. I would say my weaknesses are that I care too much. And sometimes I work too hard. I'm sorry, this feels like a hard one for us to answer seriously, but really I will say that something I like to say about myself is that I am a person who holds strong opinions, but they are loosely held. So I am always up to engage in conversation about issues, and I am willing to be convinced that I'm wrong. So you might be in for some long board meetings if I get on the board. Being on the board is about representing everyone in the district as best you can, and there will always be folks who don't agree with the decisions that are being made by the board. But it's important to me to make sure that I can stand behind the decisions that we make. I don't know weaknesses. You could ask my family.
I kind of answered this question previously in my previous answer, but I could talk about my experience with managing budgets for a long time because it's why I kind of went into being a producer. And I can start with my weakness is I always feel guilty when I have an overage on a job. Like, it's not my fault. It's just, I feel I have so much invested in the project and in carefully crafting each line item of my budget that when something goes over, I feel like I take it personally. But, one of the things that I think is a challenge with our current situation and the budget, the financial situation is that it feels a little bit like the current board is following that famous Mark Zuckerberg motto, move fast and break things, which, I feel like, some entrepreneurs follow that and it sort of is like, go ahead, try things. If you mess up, roll that product out. And it feels a little bit like we're doing that a little bit with the school budget, which doesn't necessarily, cannot support that. And we know how that sort of resulted with Facebook. So I do feel that the current board should be, acting with more financial fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
So my experience and weaknesses with budgets. My weakness is, my husband always says, how can you manage millions of dollars if you can't manage your own checkbook? I think it's because I'm paid to do it. But my experiences I have is with fundraising, how to properly allocate funds, looking at how we can use what we already have before we look to spend in other places, managing contracts with vendors and looking at year-over-year percentage increases. I've been able to successfully negotiate new contracts, and at times getting them lower at what the current contract has been. So I think I have been very successful in the funds and budgeting experience in my day-to-day work life. And I would love to bring that to the board and the school district.
Lauren, how does a school board balance the need to provide a quality education with the need to respond to the local taxpayer burden.
Well, I think I said it before, I think we have to look through the budget and see where we can reallocate things. So we don't have to make cuts, but we have to try to stick to the budget, but you still have to give the kids the best education that they can get. So not cutting programs is not necessarily the best way, so really, I would just have to, once I'm on the board, see a little bit more about that. I'm not very educated yet on how you go about that, so I'll get back to you guys.
See how tired we all are. We're all leaving time on the timer. So again, just to reiterate what I said earlier, we need a long-term plan. The fund balance will dwindle by 2030. And we have to figure out how to maintain programs and not overtax people. So again, according to Don Hoffman, the CPA who spoke at the December 20th board meeting, property taxes will need to be raised above the tax cap to allow us to maintain current programs, let alone any spending growth at all. So I don't think that it's reasonable for our community to think that there won't be tax increases. There will be. Many of us were counting on Indian Point continuing to support our school district, and they are not going to do that at the level that they have been doing. There are pilot programs in place that will make up some of it, but we really have to figure out how can we do a better job with the money we have, keep the programs we have. I think Enrique's done an amazing job creating the fund balance, but we have to use that very carefully, and some of our fund balances can be used to keep taxes manageable, and some of them can't. So again, I will learn more about that if you elect me to the board, and then, we'll figure out the best way to do that.
Yeah, I think, some of us have been asked, like, if we would be comfortable raising taxes, and, for sure, I don't think anyone would be comfortable raising taxes, but, what Chris says is the truth, and what we're doing right now is we're dipping into the rainy day fund that is decreasing. We have to be honest with ourselves that the money from Indian Point is going away, and we have to be serious about what we're going to be doing in the next couple of years to be able to keep our district afloat and balance the taxpayer, the needs of the taxpayer. I mean, I'm one of those people that moved here because of the low taxes. And as I said, I don't think I could have lived here if the taxes were as high as they are in a lot of the other parts of Westchester. So I'm certainly invested in being as fiscally responsible as possible. And with my work experience, I will be able to roll my hands up and go through. I can never find that line by line budget. I know there's a pie chart, but it doesn't exactly, meet the need. That we will be able to be creative and find ways to maintain programs and still keep our tax burden as low as possible.
I think everybody has the same outlook. Nobody wants their taxes raised. But unfortunately, it's the reality. And as some of you might appreciate it, some of you might not, but you also kind of get what you pay for, right? So my thoughts is to, of course, have the least amount of increase of taxes, and that would be by implementing the knowledge that I have with budgeting, and being able to look at the line by line item, as I stated before when asked about experience in financing and financing and all that other stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody behind this table, everybody in this room, everybody can agree, nobody wants their taxes raised. The school board raises taxes, they're raising on themselves also. I'm pretty positive that they don't want to have their own taxes raised. But of course, if there are no taxes, It's not much of a society that we live in. You're not gonna have roads, you're not gonna have schools, you're not gonna have all these public services that are a necessary part of a civilized society, of a functioning society, of a world that we wanna live in, of a district that we wanna live in, of a community that we wanna live in. And if a slight tax increase is what it takes to improve the district, then that's something that we should do. That's not saying that we should be wasteful or inefficient in using your money. It's your money, it's our money, it's our community. We have to be, we have to do it right. We have to do it right. And that's what you guys have to decide, is who is the right one to spend your money on the schools. It's gonna be one of us. I'm sure that we could all do a fantastic job in our own way. And we all have different attributes and different ways of communicating, different ways of talking and listening. And, you know, I'm optimistic about the future of the district with who the candidates are. As you should be too.
Chris. Will you support the current shift to a modified Princeton plan with 2 pre-K buildings and 1 third grade through 5th grade building? Or do you plan to re-examine the decision and consider another change, and why?
This is an excellent question, and one that I think is on everybody's minds. So the answer is, we don't actually know what is happening yet. So enrollment numbers are continuing to change as of right now, or the last time that they were reported. I didn't go to the board meeting yesterday, but the one before that, there were 18 pre-K students at BV and 6 at Furnace Woods. That's not practical. Is the Y gonna do the program at Furnace Woods if there are 6 students there? That feels like a big question mark. Another big question mark is whether the community is going to approve the budget and or the bond. And so if the budget doesn't pass, which I hope it does, and I really encourage you, if you want to be convinced on why you need to vote for the budget, reach out to me, please. But if it doesn't, then there will be hard decisions to be made. Based on the current enrollment numbers, the current restructuring plan will set us back in terms of diversity, equity, and budget. So as an example, there are currently 2 ENL, English as a New Language students at Furnace Woods, and a handful of students with placement in an ICT classroom in their current IEP. So as I mentioned before with the special ed question, that means students who currently are entitled to an ICT classroom in their IEP will have their IEPs rewritten so that instead they get hours of instruction, special ed instruction, and not placement in an ICT classroom, because we can't afford to have a classroom for 2 students. So we need to look at it.
So, you know, the current plan B is the policy. It's what's in the plan to happen next year. So, you know, whatever ends up happening as a board member, I will embrace and try to help people get through it the best way possible. That said, you know, looking at it with a fiscally responsible lens, there are a lot of costs, I could build on what Chris said, that are unnecessarily being spent to, you know, towards the move, $211,000. There's money in the $30 million bond that is to make the cafeterias and the bathrooms able to accommodate the classes that are going to be in FGL. So, you know, while the budget, certainly I agree with Chris that we should strongly advocate for passing the budget, it does feel that we are allocating money that we don't have towards things that are unnecessary. And, you know, I do feel that it would be, you know, if we could go back in time, I would have advocated for just staying the course a little longer, figuring out, I know that there are plans to maybe, you know, move 5th grade to the middle school, and, you know, that would be another change. So, you know, why keep making changes? We want our kids to be able to have stability.
Question. Will you support the current shift to a modified Princeton plan with 2 pre-K through 2nd grade buildings and 1 3rd through 5th grade building? Or do you plan to re-examine the decision and consider another change, and why?
So I'm okay with Plan B. Because once families had started to come to me, I did a little bit of research on my own. And there are no studies that prove that the current plan is more or less beneficial to students than Plan B would be. So why make another move?
Before I ask for a rebuttal.
Yeah.
Let's finish the cycle and then we'll give you your turn.
Yeah, I'm okay with sticking with the modified Princeton plan going forward. I think having the youngest children, the youngest students commuting an hour potentially door to door from the farthest reaches of the district to the school that the kindergarten is a little bit extreme and was extreme, and I think it's really fine to have the youngest children at the nearest school that they are zoned for. I know most people don't want to commute an hour each way, so why should 5- and 6-year-olds be commuting that type of distance? And that's the plan going forward, and we should stick with it and see how it works out. And if there needs to be changes for whatever reason, then we can reevaluate after a couple of years and see how it works.
I think it would be extremely short-sighted for me to come into a new position on the board and then change what has been worked on for the past 3 years. I think we've been too hyper-focused on the structure of the schools, and we need to focus on the academics and move forward. We hired consultants, we listened to consultants, we held community forums, data was given, and we still continue to be hyper-focused on the structure. And I think it's a disservice to the students. The 2-year Princeton plan was not proven to have educational benefits, and I feel that 3 years in one school is a little bit more consistent than kids changing every 2 years. We've had kids change schools now every year for the past 3 years with another change ahead. This is just getting ridiculous. So I think, if we don't move on with Plan B, also, what's the plan for the children in the UPK? We've already decided that we could open it up to more kids. And if you don't go forward with Plan B, then you're going back to going onto a lottery. So it doesn't open the door to let all kids into the UPK. Plan B is still Princeton plan. It's just a different structure of Princeton plan that allows our youngest students to be closer to home, which is comforting when they first start school.
As per the league's rules, rebuttals are permitted. No one here. You guys do it.
So as per the rules for the League of Women Voters, each candidate is permitted a rebuttal, and it is a 30-second rebuttal period.
30 seconds on the clock now.
Okay, so Denise said there were no studies that show that the current structure is more beneficial than Plan B. That is because we have not been in the current structure long enough to be able to study what is beneficial for our students. What we do have data on is that 95% of our K-6 teachers said that they would prefer to stay in the current structure and not move to Plan B. All of the teachers in the union, not just K-6, voted, and 74% of them, oh, okay. I'll tell you later if you want to know what the data.
Yes.
So bad.
I have a rebuttal for Joseph. I was just wondering where you got the statistic that kids would be on the bus for an hour, because I hadn't heard that, and I actually live the furthest away from Furnace Woods, and my kid's bus ride is 18 minutes, probably less sometimes. So I was just wondering where that came from, and then if there were any other reasons other than the transportation that you feel like that plan would be better.
Sure, I live about the farthest distance, and know other people that's even farther from me, close in that 202 region. And their kids are leaving their door about an hour before they have to be, at school door. And that's about an hour each way, you know? Whether it's 48 minutes, 45 minutes, they're leaving their door an hour before school starts. And, way too much. I wouldn't want to make that commute myself.
Another verse?
What are your thoughts on how often a change in school configuration could or should take place?
Sorry, I didn't hear you at the very beginning of it.
What are your thoughts on how often a change in school configuration could or should take place?
Oh, interesting. How often should, I mean, I would have to research that. I don't, in my opinion, you know, I have no information to make a decision on that, but it does feel like kids need stability. And I think, certainly the move to Princeton plan wasn't taken lightly. It was, researched for years and years, and there are a lot of school districts around us. I think Ossining has been doing it for a really long time that have had success with it. So I think when we moved into that Princeton plan, it had a lot more benefits that outweighed the stressful parts of the moving. I mean, everything has its pros and cons for sure. But I feel like our kids are resilient, and when we're keeping our goals high for them, my kids like the longer bus ride, the 20-minute bus ride, because they do their homework. And, kids in general, it feels like they have fun on the bus. So I never looked at that as a negative in my opinion. Some crazy stuff happens on the bus too. So I wouldn't be able to give an opinion on how often people should move schools, but they should go to the school and be in a situation that's the absolute best for their education. That's what I would say. Can you repeat the question?
What are your thoughts on how often a change in school configuration could or should take place?
If the infrastructure is right, there shouldn't be a change at all. Unfortunately, the infrastructure here is not right, and that's why they've been changing it so many times. So, that's my answer.
Cancel on this. Sorry.
What are your thoughts on how often a change in school configuration could or should take place?
Changes on schools, they should not be taken lightly, and they shouldn't be done impulsively either. They should be done when necessary and when needed, and when there's real reasons as to why they would improve the district. You gotta weigh the benefits and the cons to any type of large change to a school district, and obviously they had done that with the Princeton plan, and it seems like it really hasn't worked out for enough of the people and enough of the parents and enough of the students that they decided to modify it. And it seems reasonable to make a change if people aren't happy with it, if the students aren't happy with it, if the parents aren't happy with it. Of course, the faculty do have to be taken into account, but they're only one of the three important parties, right? There's the faculty, there's the parents, and the students. If 2 out of 3 are saying like, hey, we're really not happy with this configuration, then the school board should be open to making adjustments needed to make the parents and the students happy. So it should be done rarely, and we should really just be making sure that every school is equitable, and there shouldn't have even been a reason to have to do the printing. There should have been wonderful elementary schools, all three of them, from the start, 30 years ago, when they were built. 60 years ago, right? Maybe 69.
Sorry, my, years are off.
I don't think that we should be reconfiguring the school all the time. I think we need to find the best way and stick with it. So, like I said before, I know that it was looked at closely to go to Plan B. They looked at many other options, so this is what was chosen by the board and community feedback and experts. So, you know, I just don't think that we have to keep changing schools every couple of years. It's just not fair to the students or the parents. It gets too chaotic, and that's what's actually dividing our community right now, to be honest. So it's kind of a mess, and I think we just need to stick with one plan and figure it out and move on from that, because like we all said before, we need to pay attention to the middle school and the high school too. It's not just about elementary school, and that is important because those are the kids feeding into the middle school and the high school. So we need to stop messing around and just like come together and figure this out.
So Joseph mentioned that we need real reasons to make change, and I want to say that while our elementary schools were wonderful, so I was a BB parent pre-Princeton plan, I'm a BB parent again during the Princeton plan, and I will be one again, whatever happens, I guess. We do have wonderful elementary schools, but we also had extremely inequitable ones. The year that my daughter went to kindergarten, there were 20 children in her kindergarten class, and there were 11 children in a kindergarten class at Furnace Woods. That is not equitable. We had special ed kids being bused to BV. That is not equitable. People were not complaining about long bus rides for special ed kids who had to be sent to BV if they lived in Furnace Woods. I think I'm gonna go back again to Dave. Come with me to the movie Dave, because I have 40 seconds left. And say, so in Plan B, Furnace Woods will no longer qualify for free lunch program, leaving students zoned for that school who need it left behind. And I will say again, that students need to be fed to learn. So you tell me what's more important. Students who need lunch, getting it for free, or the length of your child's bus ride.
So yes, people say, oh, 750. What?
Please. When dealing with highly charged or potential controversial topics, how can you assure the public that you won't be beholden to a certain group and will represent all stakeholders fairly?
Yeah.
I think we already answered that.
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should. No, not in those exact words,
Yeah,
but
you know, but, all right, how will I now be, repeat that to me?
Let me just look on it. In your answers, you may have approached this and discussed this topic. This is a question that was submitted by multiple community members, and we feel it's important to address. So we'd like to go ahead and submit our last question of the evening. So we're going a little past 9, but hopefully everybody's okay with that. We'd appreciate it if you would.
Could you repeat it? When dealing with highly charged or potentially controversial topics, how can you assure to the public that you won't be beholden to a certain group and will represent all stakeholders fairly?
Because I was not endorsed or accepted money from anyone. I see myself as being a neutral arbiter and being a voice of the community.
So I'm newish here, 4 years. I haven't been involved in any of the school board meetings or in the mix with any of the PTA groups or any of the parent groups whatsoever. So I'm coming to a completely fresh eyes, fresh blood, I'm ready to be screamed at by everybody equally, really. I don't have any favors to give. I haven't been endorsed either by anybody. I have no, alliances to anybody, really. I'm happy to be everybody's best friend or everybody, who everybody hates the most. It's all fine to me. Just happy to come up here and do the work for you guys.
I think, I pride myself on being a good listener. It's critical in my business. I'll work with other board members, and work on our communication skills. I'll make sure, we reach all areas of the district and make sure that we hear from everybody. I think that everybody has to just rely on facts instead of opinion, and, we have to learn how to handle disagreements. But I think being on a board, you have to, like I said, be a team player. I do that in my job. I work with all different people to make, one thing come together. There's no one person that's the most important. So I think the main goal of everyone should be the students and the education, and, however we can all work together to make that the best outcome, I think is what I would do.
I was listening to a song on the way over here, doing like my little pump up, and one of the lines is just that I come to the table again and again and again and again, and that is something that I promise to do if I'm elected to the board. I will say again that I have strong opinions, but they are loosely held. I always am up for talking with people. Just put on my nerd glasses for a moment. My research area of choice is conversation analysis. So really, truly, interaction is my favorite thing. I will not let you scream at me on Facebook, but if you want to scream at me in person, sure. So I think, a lot of the kind of divisiveness is happening on social media, but if we talk to each other as people, we can come to an understanding. Tell me what your issues are. I will explain, this is how I understand what's happening. You tell me, change my mind. I'm here for it.
Yeah, so I would definitely echo what Chris just said in terms of I'm here to listen, to disagree with you, to agree with you. One of the things my husband and I always do is, we try to not surround ourselves with people that only have the same beliefs as us. And, we will seek out, people that we can have a healthy debate with. So that's something that I would definitely look forward to doing on the board. And in terms of the HHEA endorsement, I was incredibly proud to get that endorsement. And it doesn't change anything about what I intend to do on the board. The reason that they chose me for the endorsement is because in my conversation with them, we aligned on the same beliefs of the importance of teachers and how they haven't been heard. So there isn't anything they're asking us to do specifically to change anything. The questionnaire that's everybody's been talking about is the same questionnaire that all the newspapers have been calling us to ask us about. So if you're interested in reading all the articles that are going to come out, it's basically the same questions, very basic, nothing specific or gotcha or anything like that. So, I'm not gonna, I know the elephant in the room is the endorsement, but I'm excited for it and I'm proud to have gotten it.
There's Joseph as again.
We have come to the end of the Q&A part of this forum. Each candidate will now have 1 minute and 30 seconds for a closing statement. We will go in the reverse order from opening statements. So the order will be Joseph Mintz, Denise Rivera, Corey Bodine, Chris Jacknick, and Lauren Stanko.
Thank you to everybody for listening to us and your patience, and hopefully you are enthusiastic about the future of the district and future of the school board, and there's some candidates here that really resonate with you and for you, and I'm sure each and every candidate up here truly does want to make the school system the best that they can, how they can do it in their own way. I'm enthusiastic about the high school, thanks to our wonderful mediators that we have. And I'm sure that all of the students that are in the school program now, we should hope that they can be as excellent as the mediators that we had hosting for us and asking the questions. And thanks to the community for asking the questions that they asked. They were all wonderful questions. And I hope that you have convinced one or two of you to shoot at me in a couple of months.
Thank you all. Thank you again to all those that made this event possible, and thank you to the community who I know care as much about our schools as much as I do. If elected, I will take the uncomfortable questions. We will make every effort to seek and obtain any available funds and eliminate every inefficiency in the budget before turning to the taxpayer. When we consider both sides of an issue and learn to appreciate the positive aspects of each viewpoint, we will always do our best. Our children have been through a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, missed learning, and have even been exposed to extreme ideologies. But when do we ask, how do we fix this? And do what's best for them. We need to forego our egos and put aside the differences that continue to divide us. I'm not going to ask for your vote. I intend to earn it and continue earning it for my tenure on the board. But I am going to ask you to be true to yourself when you are voting and checking off those boxes. Remember, your vote is yours and yours only. Vote for your kids' interests, not someone else's. Thank you to the other candidates. This was a great opportunity to answer questions and concerns, but also to learn. Thanks again for your amazing support. Let's go Sailors!
When my term on the school board ends 3 years from now, here's what I hope to say to all of you. Working as a team with my fellow board members, we righted the ship financially. We balanced our budget. We limited spending to what we brought in each year. We stopped raiding our savings. We stopped jeopardizing our long-term future. We acted responsibly. I consistently engaged with parents and teachers with whom we entrust our children. I recognized their professionalism. I worked with them, not against them, and everyone benefited as a result, especially our children. And number 3, I helped establish an easy to understand communication system, engaging more of you openly and honestly. And as a result, you're now more informed, more engaged, and more empowered. The bottom line is simple. It's time that we reestablish the trust and respect that we all deserve. I'm ready to work with all of your families, as well as those within our communities that don't have kids. I'm ready to be your voice on the board. I hope you vote to give me this opportunity to serve you. I'm Corey Boudin, and thank you.
I'm running for the Hendrick Hudson School Board because this is a crucial time for our district and we need serious, focused leadership to navigate our way through. As a lifelong educator, I'm passionate about building a strong school system that values teachers and fosters our students' intellectual and emotional growth. My parents were both public school teachers, and I was raised with a real service mindset. My dad passed away suddenly in November 2022. The past year plus has been really difficult. The decision to run for the school board is in part a tribute to him and to my mom, and also an example to my own children, that we have a duty to give back to the communities that support us. I do want you to vote not just for what's best for your kid. I want you to vote for what is best for our community. Cuando las escuelas se asocian con las familias y la comunidad, los estudiantes se benefician. Your vote is important in shaping the future of our district. Thank you to our moderators, and thank you for your time at this forum.
My desire to serve on the school board stems from a sincere commitment to making a positive impact on our district by working tirelessly to realize the goal of student success, teacher support, and community engagement. While on the board, I hope to engage in open and honest dialogue with other members, stakeholders, and administrators to be a calming presence. I hope to use data and good judgment in decision-making. I hope to bring more attention to the academic and mental health struggles of our children, and I hope to work with others to explore any new areas for savings. I feel my experience with 4 kids across all levels of education will bring special insight to being a Board of Education member. I will be living the policies we make. As a school board member, I will work to ensure that our district provides the opportunity and support today's students need to thrive and become successful in the next phase of their lives, and that all students get what they need. We also need to heal our district. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you all for coming tonight and thank you for your questions. Please join me in thanking our 5 candidates. We wish you everyone a good evening and please be sure to vote on May 21st at Frank G. Lindsay Elementary School.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for coming. For those of you who are watching online, on our Facebook page, we'll post the candidates' contact information tonight. That information will also go out with the recording link as soon as it's available.